Every man pays for the lesson. It's unavoidable. The question isn't whether you'll learn it, but how. You'll either pay with awareness, the price of admission to real maturity, or you'll pay with years of regret, the crushing cost of confusion, chaos, and loss. The difference, ultimately, is timing. You can't control how a woman presents herself to you. That's her choice. But you can absolutely control how fast you see the truth hidden beneath that presentation. The problem is, most men wait. They wait until it's too late. They wait until after the commitment is made, after the chaos begins, after they've suffered the loss of their peace and their self-respect. But there is another way, a path that bypasses the long, painful tuition paid in years of heartbreak. There are 4 hidden psychological tests that quietly, consistently, and accurately reveal her true intentions, her true nature. Long before the damage is done, learn these 4 tests, internalize them, and you will never again fall blindly for charm, for surface-level sweetness, or for a convenient fantasy. Because real strength isn't avoiding women altogether. That's fear. Real strength is knowing exactly what kind of woman you are dealing with, so you can choose your future intelligently. Most men don't realize this crucial lesson until it's too late. It's not because they are weak or unintelligent. It's because they trusted what felt right instead of what was real. They chose hope over observation. And here is why that is so dangerous. Women rarely reveal their full truth in the beginning of any interaction. Instead, they show you the version of themselves that perfectly fits your specific hope, your secret fantasy, your deeply human need to believe that she is the one. And when that perfect, mirrored version inevitably disappears, it feels like a shocking, sudden betrayal. But you must understand this. It was never betrayal. It was only revelation. The mask simply slipped. This isn't about blaming her for the performance. It's about taking responsibility for your own awareness. Because the only thing more dangerous than a woman who hides her truth is a man who actively refuses to see it. Every man thinks he knows the woman he's dating. Every man is convinced he's the exception, that his connection is different, until the mask starts to slip and reality sets in. In the beginning, everything feels effortless. She laughs perfectly at your jokes. She mirrors your exact energy and tone. She looks at you, and you start to think, finally, someone who actually gets me. But I am here to tell you, that's not deep, immediate connection. That's calibration. The truth is, the early phase of dating isn't a beautiful love story waiting to unfold. It's a performance. A delicate, high-stakes exchange of signals where both sides show only what serves them best. But women, you must admit, they master this dance far better than most men do. They understand the subtle art of mirroring, matching your tone, your stated beliefs, your core values, not necessarily to deceive you, but to make you feel safe enough to relax, drop your guard, and fully invest. It's basic human psychology at its finest. People bond faster and more deeply with those who seem familiar. So when she agrees with every opinion you have, when she listens with soft eyes and says she loves how grounded you are, she's not necessarily lying. She's sinking, reading you, learning your language before deciding exactly how and when to use it. Men fall fast in this stage because they confuse a few moments of compatibility for authentic, long-term connection. You think her calmness is maturity. You think her sweetness is pure authenticity. You assume her immediate agreement is emotional alignment. But in truth, you're seeing a flawless reflection, not a genuine revelation. What you are falling for is the version of her she knows you want to see. That's why everything feels so impossibly perfect at first. The woman who later becomes defensive, critical, or distant wasn't suddenly changed by time or by the relationship. She was simply revealing what was always there, the parts she kept hidden in shadow, until she no longer needed the light of the performance. Here's the core lesson you need to understand right now. Women don't show their real, unedited selves until 2 conditions are met. First, when they feel emotionally safe enough to drop the act. And second, when they believe you're already invested enough that they no longer have to maintain it. That is the precise moment when the mirroring ends and the real testing begins. This is where most men fail. They confuse consistency in the early weeks with genuine comfort. They believe if she's been good for a short time, that must be who she is forever. But time doesn't reveal character. Pressure does. That's why the mask phase isn't dangerous, because she's pretending. It's dangerous because you stop observing the moment you think you've seen enough. So, before you hand her your loyalty, you must slow down. Let the pattern show itself. Don't rush to define her too soon. Give her the space to truly reveal herself, not just perform for you. Because your first mistake isn't trusting her. It's trusting what you see too early. Now we move from theory to execution. These are the 4 hidden tests that will quietly, efficiently, and accurately reveal a woman's true nature. You don't perform these tests out of paranoia. You perform them out of self-respect and intelligent risk management. You are simply giving her the space to show you her true, unedited character under a small amount of pressure. Test number 1. How she handles your truth. Every relationship begins with charm, with the smooth, easy agreement that keeps the peace. But the real test, the test of emotional maturity, begins when truth enters the room. You will never know a woman's emotional capacity by how she behaves when everything feels good and easy. You will only know it the moment something you say makes her genuinely uncomfortable. Your assignment is to tell her something real. Something that isn't polished. Something that might slightly challenge the perfect, infallible version of you she's built in her mind. This is about revealing a small, strategic piece of your vulnerability or your boundaries. Maybe you admit you're not financially ready for certain commitments she's hinting at. Maybe you share that something specific she did recently genuinely bothered you. Or perhaps you open up about a core weakness or fear that you rarely show anyone. A scar from a past relationship, a fear of being controlled, or an insecurity about your path. Then, crucially, you stop talking. Let silence do its job. What happens next will tell you everything you need to know about your future emotional freedom with her. If she gets immediately defensive, if she dismisses your feelings with a flip remark, or worst of all, if she quickly spins the conversation back to how your truth made her feel, that's not communication. That's pure deflection. She's not listening to understand the deeper meaning of your truth. She's protecting her own fragile self-image. You'll notice how quickly the entire focus shifts. It is no longer about the truth you shared, it's exclusively about her comfort and her anxiety. And that right there is the precise moment where emotional safety dies. A mature woman understands that 2 people in a relationship are 2 separate entities, each with their own flaws and fears. But if she listens, not just to reply, but to absorb the weight of what you said, if she asks clarifying questions, if she takes a noticeable breath before she reacts, that's emotional intelligence in action. That's a woman who can sit with discomfort without needing to frantically control it. That's a woman who can hold your vulnerability without instantly weaponizing it later when she's angry. Most men tragically never test this. They confuse initial chemistry for deep connection and mistake silence for peace. They actively avoid uncomfortable conversations because they don't want to lose the illusion of perfection. But the longer you delay that truth, the deeper the illusion grows, and the harder the break will hit you later. Think about the countless men who feared being controlled because of past scars. When they shared this fear, their new partner laughed, calling them too sensitive. He ignored that laugh, convinced himself she was joking, only to find himself a year later apologizing for things he didn't do, asking permission just to breathe. That initial dismissive laugh was the warning. He simply didn't want to hear it. The truth is profound. If a woman cannot handle your truth, your unedited reality, She will never be able to handle your genuine love. Real love demands honesty, not performance. It needs space for both people to be deeply flawed and still feel safe. So don't be afraid to reveal yourself early. Not everything, just enough to see how she holds it. Her reaction isn't just feedback about her. It's a vital insight into your future emotional freedom. A woman's reaction to your honesty reveals how safe your deepest emotions will truly be with her. Test number 2, how she reacts to your independence. The second test is about autonomy and control. It reveals everything about her sense of trust, her security, and her fear of loss. Tell her you're going somewhere without her. It must be a non-negotiable plan focused on your personal growth or your long-term relationships. Maybe it's a weekend away with your close friends. Maybe it's a solo trip to clear your head and focus on a project. Keep it simple and firm. No long explanations. No over-justifying. Just tell her, I'm going away this weekend with the guys. I'll be back Sunday evening. Talk to you then. Then, you wait and see what happens. Most men don't realize this, but how a woman responds to your autonomy reveals everything about her need for control versus her trust in you. If she's secure, she won't panic. She won't demand to know every detail of every hour. She'll nod, perhaps ask if you'll be safe, and move on to talking about her own weekend plans. That's not indifference. That's emotional confidence. It's the ability to let you breathe without desperately fearing what your freedom means for her security. But if she starts asking 50 questions, where are you going? Who exactly is going? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Why can't I come? You must stop and pay attention. That is not curiosity. That is control disguised as concern. It is the beginning of a slow, invisible takeover. You'll notice the conversation is no longer about your trip. It's exclusively about her anxiety. And the more you frantically try to reassure her, the more she tightens her grip. The underlying truth is that control has nothing to do with love. It's solely about fear. The fear of losing emotional power. A woman who genuinely trusts you doesn't need surveillance. She understands that connection doesn't require containment. But a woman who cannot sit with uncertainty will immediately try to shrink your world until she feels safe again, always at your expense. Many men tragically mistake this need for affection. They think, she just cares so much, but care doesn't suffocate. Control does. What begins as a sweet, possessive curiosity soon becomes a quiet erosion of your freedom, where every decision you make must first pass her silent or explicit approval. I have witnessed countless men lose themselves this way. It starts with small things, skipping a night out because she didn't like his friends. Then it becomes checking in every hour, explaining why he didn't text back fast enough. One day, the man looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the person staring back. That's how control works. It doesn't storm in with a fight. It seeps in. It convinces you that peace is worth your submission. That if you just comply, things will go smoothly. But what it really does is train you to betray yourself just to keep her calm. If you have to ask permission to be yourself, you're not in a loving partnership. You're in a cage. So test her need for control before she successfully makes it your permanent responsibility. Because once she completely rewires your behavior to manage her emotions, you'll never get your true freedom back without breaking something significant, maybe her attachment, or maybe your own soul. Test number 3. What happens when money disappears? Nothing exposes human nature faster or more brutally than scarcity. You can talk about love, loyalty, and shared values all day long, but take away the immediate material comfort, and the deepest truth will emerge. For this test, you introduce a slight shift in your financial reality. Tell her something has shifted financially. Maybe you lost a major client. Maybe you're cutting back drastically to save for a future investment. Or maybe you just want to live simpler and more intentionally for a while. Then, you observe, not her words but her energy, a woman who is genuinely with you, who sees you as a partner and not a provider, won't panic. She'll adjust. She'll ask what she can do to help support the new situation. She'll care more about you and your emotional state than what you can immediately provide, because to her, partnership means contribution, not consumption. But the other kind of woman, the one whose attraction is unconsciously built on what you give, not who you are, will shift instantly. You'll feel it before you hear it. The tone changes, the patience fades, replaced by irritability. Suddenly, she's too busy. Or the deep conversations turn cold and superficial. She might still smile and still say the right words, but the warmth behind it is gone. That's not love cooling down. That's the sudden, harsh withdrawal of investment. Because when the transactional relationship stops, the illusion of connection collapses entirely. This is what psychology calls transactional attachment. It's when affection becomes currency and validation becomes a form of payment. It's subtle and deadly because it feels intensely real until the balance changes. I heard the story of a man who tested this by accident. He just started dating a woman who seemed perfect, sweet, attentive, loyal. Then, 1 month, his work went quiet. His income dipped, and he casually mentioned he'd have to skip fancy dinners and trips for a while. Her reaction was immediate and telling. So, what are we even doing then? A week later, she stopped replying to his messages. 2 months later, she was dating someone new, richer, louder, flashier. He didn't feel angry. He felt profoundly free. Because for the first time, he realized what she truly loved: the lifestyle, not the man. Here's the truth most men ignore. A woman's loyalty shouldn't depend on your income or your lifestyle. It should depend on your integrity and your direction. If your worth is tied solely to your bank balance, she's not with you. She's with your potential. And when that potential fluctuates or faces a setback, so will her affection. So, test it early, not out of paranoia, but out of absolute self-respect. Mention you're saving money to prioritize an investment. Skip a luxury date and propose a simple night in. See if she flinches. See if she still shows up smiling. The goal isn't to trap her. It's to observe her alignment. Because when money disappears, the deepest truth about her appears. Don't just ask if she loves you. Ask if she'd still stay when comfort leaves the room. Test number 4. When her world meets yours. It's deceptively easy to fall for a woman in isolation. When it's just the two of you inside your perfect little bubble. In that private, curated space, everything feels perfect, no friction, no interference, no witnesses. But the full truth of who she is doesn't appear until your individual lives start to truly merge. For this final test, you must invite her to a gathering with your closest friends, a casual dinner with your immediate family, or a night out with the people who've known you the longest. Then you step back and watch. You will learn more in 2 hours than you did in 2 months of private dating. If she's warm, curious, and genuinely interested in the people who matter most to you, that's alignment. She respects not just who you are right now, but where you came from and the ecosystem that built you. She sees your inner circle not as competition, but as an extension of the man she loves. She doesn't need to dominate your attention because she's confident in her honored place beside you. But if she seems detached, judgmental, or visibly uncomfortable, pay immediate attention. The problem isn't that she's shy, it's that she doesn't fundamentally respect the ecosystem that built you. And that's the first seed of isolation control. A controlling partner rarely starts with the aggressive command, "You can't see them anymore." It begins with subtle comments, "Your friends are immature," or "Your family doesn't really get us." Slowly, she positions herself as your only safe space, while everything outside her becomes noise. It feels like intimacy at first, but it is not closeness. It is containment. Here's the danger most men don't see until it's too late. The woman who isolates you will own you, because once she successfully cuts off the voices that remind you who you are, she becomes the only voice you hear. That's how emotional captivity begins. Not with a fight, but with a quiet, insidious separation from your entire world. I once spoke with a man who hadn't seen his friends in 6 years. He said it started after his girlfriend didn't vibe with his group. Then holidays became just the two of them. Eventually, his family stopped calling, not because they didn't care, but because every interaction turned into subtle conflict engineered by her. He confessed, "I thought I was choosing peace, but I was choosing silence, and silence is exactly what control needs to grow." So don't just listen to what she says about your people. Watch her body language, her tone, the pauses between her words. Does she encourage connection, or does she compete with it? A woman who truly loves you will make room for your world, not shrink it. Pay attention to how she treats the people who made you who you are. You've looked at her reactions, her habits, her patterns. You've tested her patience, her loyalty, her control. But here's the most critical truth most men never want to face. These tests were never just about her. They were about you. Every reaction she gives you is also a profound reflection of your own emotional state. The things that trigger you, the painful patterns you keep ignoring, the boundaries you constantly bend, all of them are urgent messages from your own psychology. You attract what you tolerate. You repeat what you don't repair. If you constantly find yourself drawn to women who control, criticize, or withdraw, you must stop and ask yourself, why do I keep staying? Because sometimes it's not that you can't see the red flags. It's that you don't want to. You choose to believe the perfect version of her that fits the story you've already built in your head, the one that promises comfort, validation, or redemption. Men often call this loyalty, but most of the time it's deep-seated fear. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone, fear of confronting the parts of yourself you've ignored. But growth begins the moment you stop pretending you don't see the truth. The moment you start observing without emotion, without justification, without excuse. You stop asking, why is she like this? And start asking, why do I keep allowing this? That's when everything changes. You realize that these tests aren't a game to play on women. They're a mirror to hold up to yourself. They reveal your thresholds, your insecurities, and your patterns of surrender. A woman can only control the parts of you that you have already abandoned, the moment you reclaim them. Your boundaries, your time, your self-respect, her power over you completely dissolves. And that is the real test. Not whether she passes yours, but whether you pass your own. At the end of the day, she's not the test, you are. The more honest you are with yourself, the faster you'll see her truth. You've seen what most men never take the time to see, the 4 hidden tests. These aren't tricks, they're mirrors. Each one strips away illusion and shows you who she really is. Awareness is armor. Once you have it, no one can take advantage of your blind spots again. You stop chasing potential and start choosing presence. You stop asking, does she love me? And start asking, do I trust how she treats me? If you skip these tests, life will give you harsher ones later, the kind that cost you years, peace, and sometimes yourself. So take them now, quietly, intelligently. Start observing, not judging, just observing. That's where your power begins. If this opened your eyes, share it with a man who needs to wake up. Subscribe, because awareness isn't a one-time lesson. It's a lifestyle.